It's 4:43 here at CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM. I'm Mark Watt. Nice to have you with us. He was a comics comic, one of the most successful comedians working in Canada. Irwin Barker has passed away. The Winnipeg-born Barker was a stand-up, an actor, a writer for This Hour Has 22 Minutes, also The Rick Mercer Show. In 2007, he was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. He actually visited our Up to Speed studios in 2008 to talk about what he was going through. Irwin Barker died earlier today, but he does live on in his comedy. In a moment, a friend who got his start in comedy at about the same time will join us. We'll remember Irwin Barker. But first, to give you a sense of his incredible talent, let's go back to the CBC Winnipeg Comedy Festival and listen to some of the magic of Irwin Barker.
I don't know. I've been trying to make sense of the world, and someone told me you can't change it globally, so I've been trying to get a little more involved in the community. I joined one of these youth gangs. You can't get out. I didn't know that. Once you're in, that's it. Yeah, they call me Soul Dog, so I don't know. I can't do the handshake. That's the I'm always smacking one of them in the bag or whatever. Kids, huh? It's okay. We can talk about the kids, huh? There's no teenagers here. I think we should feel pretty safe. Yeah. I don't know about your cars, but there may be a few of them here, but maybe there's enough of us. We can take them, huh? That's a serious problem, the youth gangs. I saw this in the paper. There were these two 14-year-old kids who got their mother to take them on a drive-by shooting. How do you talk your mother into that? Oh, Mom, you never let us do anything. They were making fun of our school, Mom. To me, the dumb part was it said in the paper, this is the kind of thing that happens in a single-parent home. Right, like normally it's the dad's job to take the kids on a drive-by, right? There's this poor single mom trying to be mother and father to these kids. You kids finish your geography homework or I'm not taking you to that shoot-along. It's called a drive-by, Mom. You're going to make me look like a geek. You watch your smart mouth or you're not shooting anybody. You stay in your room. Well, the big question people often ask is, seriously, what kind of world are we leaving for our kids? I think the real question is, what kind of kids are we leaving for our world?
Some of the incredible, funny work of Irwin Barker, born in Winnipeg. This comedian was so fabulous, and we were so lucky to have him at the Comedy Festival here in Winnipeg over the years. Irwin Barker died after a lengthy illness earlier today, and our next guest was one of many people who loved him, who was by his side throughout the weekend. Bruce Clark is with us now. Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
My condolences to you.
Thank you very much.
We were laughing as we listened to the genius. What was going through your mind there as you listened?
Well, I was just thinking about how the special gift he had with language and words and how he twisted the thing around at the end about just the simple. You know, Irwin's genius was in his simplicity and that's how smart he was. And he was all about words and language. And he had a little bit that sort of exemplifies it. He has a brother-in-law that's a real fine guy, and he's a policeman. And he used to use him in his act quite a bit. And he used to say, my brother-in-law, he comes up to me and says, I'm not too good with words. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, words. Well, in what respect? And it would get a huge laugh. And just that simple little thing is kind of what exemplified how Irwin thought. And he could hone right into to the funny. And, I've been asked by newspapers and columnists the last few days, what if you could kind of sum up what his style was like. And people heard it there, and that's just a small piece of the hours of material that he's written. And, to sum it up, it's just the simplicity and his ability to hone in on a subject in a completely different perspective than most comics would even, barely think of going to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that little spin he did at the end there,
Yeah.
oh, Mom, they're going to
Yeah,
laugh at
yeah.
me if you say it like that.
Yeah, like he did. And his other gift was, and another comic and I were talking about in Toronto the other day, was he would do his bit and you would think he was finished. And his setups were funnier than most punchlines. He did a bit about a millionaire who wants to be a millionaire, and he would say, the simple question at the beginning, and they tell the guests to like come up with some anecdote, and it's ridiculous. What is the prime ingredient in toast? Is it A, bread, B, carbon? And he goes on like that, and everybody think that's sort of the joke there. But then he goes on and he says, and it goes something like this. He says, well, Regis, I used to have breakfast every morning, and I would have cereal, and I would put the cereal in a bowl, and I would pour milk on it, and then I would eat it with a spoon, and my mother would make toast, so I'm going to call my mother. And it was always this beautifully written piece that just surprised you every time, and
Yes.
that was his comedy, but he was certainly more than just a comic. He was a tremendous human being, very giving. Every comic in Canada has at least 2 or 3 jokes in their act, and probably their best jokes that Irwin gave
Really?
to them while he was watching their act. And he would take, especially the younger comics, he would say, hey, listen, why don't you try this? And he would actually sit in the back and jot things down while you're on there, and he'd give them to you when you're finished.
So how did you meet?
We met when we started doing stand-up here in Winnipeg at the Yuck Yucks in the Osborne Village, and we started within 2 weeks of each other. And we immediately became friends, and I was so in awe of his writing style and how he, the way he... he didn't have to go dirty or blue or to those simple cliche type of topics that a lot of new comics started with. And everybody was really, really impressed with him right away. And I was lucky enough to become friends with him, and he elevated my material. And, my best joke is one of his jokes. So,
What was he like just as a friend?
Oh, as a friend, he was so non-judgmental and so, he would let you. He was a true. We called him the professor. We didn't here in Winnipeg. He got that nickname later on in Vancouver because there were so many of the young guys he was helping out. But he really was a true teacher because he would never tell you what to do, and he would lead by example. And no matter what was happening in your life, he was always there to kind of support you in a quiet way. And the advice he gave, sometimes it was even tacit, and you could pick up on exactly what he meant. And we actually ran a club here together too, so we were business partners for a while, and we had a lot of fun together. And he was he was one of my closest friends, and it's really difficult to lose him.
What was it like over the weekend?
It was pretty tough. I went out Friday, and his wife, who is a rock, she was there. Their whole family was there, and there was probably half a dozen of us comics there. And there's a neat story because I got there and he was in pretty rough shape, and I spent the day with him, and then Saturday, and all the comics were there. We thought we were going to lose him, and the whole family was there, and there wasn't. People were just bawling, and he was breathing very shallowly, and we were just sitting watching him and telling him we loved him, and Brent Butt was there with his wife, and some of the comics had gone out, and Brent had just got there, so he was just sort of visiting with Irwin for the first time. And I was at the foot of the bed, and the family was there. And the comics were out in the hallway talking about Irwin's bits and talking about one of his jokes, and there was a huge laugh, and suddenly Irwin's eyes just sort of opened, and it really, really became apparent that he heard the laughter and he had to get in there, So it was amazing. He actually was able to get up and get out of bed. He sat on the edge of the bed, communicated with Brent, talked to me for just, said my name, said Brent's name. We got him in a wheelchair. We went outside in the patio. And his wife had said to him, Irwin, do you want, Joanna said, sweetheart, do you need some water? And he went, coffee. And we all laughed because Irwin drank gallons of coffee. And so it was basically, we look at it as his last joke, and we were able to spend 10 more minutes with him when we know that he was lucid and communicative, and it was really a beautiful moment and a tragic weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry for the loss.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
You're quite welcome.
Talking with Bruce Clark, Winnipeg comedian, remembering his dear friend Irwin Barker, who passed away early today at the age of 58.